Hi folks, how you all going? Puzzled and thinking of the implications of the US imposed tariffs? Well, let's talk about it. US imposed tariffs are seen as serious economic concern by all nations, whether aligned to US or not. Markets have not seen such negative impacts and its effect on everyday life, especially on American citizens, which shall be seen in a couple of weeks, I suppose. Trump is asking Americans to hold their belts tight, considering it a bitter medication for advantages to come, but no details by when and how and the processes to follow. We'll see. Every nation is reviewing their tariff impacts on everyday life on their own citizens. You must have heard a wide range of analysis provided by various trade and economic experts on their own beliefs, agendas, and motivations. Here are my thoughts, which hopefully you may consider it as your own. First of all, let us understand the exporting strategy of USA by most nations after the Second World War, which is basically focused on two specific outcomes: economic growth of the benefits of their populace and buy arms and ammunition from USA. Here today, we'll talk about economic benefits being jeopardized by newly imposed tariffs by US and leave arms and ammunition discussions and issues for a later date. USA had tariffs. You may not know or you might know it. US had tariffs till early 1900s and earned around 20% of its revenue annually on all products entering USA, a bit more or less, I think. World War II brought an imbalance of needs against supplies in Europe since it was devastated of its own industrial production and agriculture. Asia and Africa were similarly affected with previous exploitation of all type of resources in past couple of centuries, and more so by Western countries now known as EU to fight against Nazi Germany in World War II. USA was the only country that benefited from World War II since its land and all types of resources remained safe and sound, being far off from German approach and attacks. This advantage made USA the supplier of all products, including agricultural needs of countries recovering from World War II. USA gave aid to most and in return got everyday life products comprehensively cheaper than their own production lines, which influenced changes of tariffs by USA till to date and for the benefits of its own populace and agenda, not for the benefits of underdeveloped nations and or developing nations. Europe and Japan were also developing nations till mid 1960s, I believe. Changes to USA tariff became an unwritten export strategy to USA by most nations. The export strategy of most EU nations was a strategy based on close alliance with USA and strengthened with NATO friendship rather than reviewing and exploring other viable options, which slowly began to appear in 2010s and started failing with NATO's generated conflicts with Russia, and influence of America in curbing China in becoming a global supereconomic power. The export energy of Latin America and Africa culminated from dependency on USA interference in their political systems and aids to remain in power, resulting selling mineral to pay for the help received. This can be seen very clearly impacting Ukraine's issues today. Export strategy by Asian countries was based on conflicts, wars with neighbors, and struggles influenced by USA. This created an environment that seemed only option to sell everyday life products including machinery, oil, plastic and clothing to name a few to US. US happily obliged, benefiting for its population citizens with securing products and on very comparatively cheap labor prices. USA led by Trump motivation is underpinned by MAGA, Make America Great Again slogan only. Its charging tariff for products entering country will add to the prosperity which may or may not come true. But what must be understood is that new tariff regime will create a considerable crisis of demand and supply of everyday American citizen life for items such as nails, screws, boilers, smartphones, computer, lithium ion batteries, toys, and video games, to name a few. This in turn would require America in creating new production lines with considerable time, resources, and industry subsidies, which will create poor quality product due to almost no competition and no incentive in research for innovation for a better product and management too. Now, the current crisis created by USA tariff does not require blame game mentality, but a paradigm shift from existing strategy of fixed export parameters by affected countries and regions. This requires serious introspection by countries of a strategy that is spreads its products and consumes within their own boundaries and establish parameters without prejudices to export surplus, including the strategy to counter new tariffs regime of USA also requires considerations to USA policies on Panama Canal, Greenland, Canada, and Palestine occupation and its future impacts. Europe will have a problem due to its NATO influence thinking. Europe will have to rethink of its own survival without preaching as master, but a negotiator with reduced constraints placed on others and still get a reasonably good price for their products or lesser they get from USA till now. Gulf Arab countries, including Saudi, benefited with investing fossil fuel earnings in USA and also through importing services for its own developments. But other Arab countries will have to get out of carrying the yoke for USA, especially stone around their neck known as Israel and the begging bowl known as AIDS. Two continents, that is Asia and Africa, can form their own internal trading systems similar to EU but decentralized. Only if they can get over their regional differences, which is a complex topic in itself. We'll discuss about it some later date. There are four major countries: Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, which have and had strained relationship with America and stood their grounds despite serious sanctions, which leaves Iran on its own, and how it deals with has to be seen. The outcome of these new tariffs on USA have serious consequences in not so distant and probably and hopefully not come true, which are start of trade wars initiated by USA. Trade wars lead to more and more tariffs, which can very easily create conflicts, which leads to real wars. Please read Trade Wars of 1920s to 19th and 20th century of Europe. Well, we'll come more about this and discuss about these development a bit later again sometime. Oh, Trump has just raised tariffs to China 104% or more in next. We'll discuss that in next episode. Thank you. And please leave your comments if you can. Much appreciated. Thank you. Bye bye.